Speaking of making our way back, let's check out Rev's video. Speaking of that, let's check out Rev's video about Crimson Desert, which seems to be doing pretty well, according to the Steam charts that we looked at earlier. And Crimson Desert did not make their game for the SJRs. It sounds like the devs behind Crimson Desert made their game for gamers. So again, that tiny thread of hope, a step forward, perhaps back into the right direction. And yeah, I heard that they did a patch. They're rolling out updates to accommodate Intel's Arc GPUs. Like they're listening to the players. From what I've been hearing, yeah, I heard the controls are as too, and I've heard that they listen to the players and they're rolling out update patches to fix the controls. So I think this sounds like the devs that are actually like listening to the criticisms or the commentary of the gamers and are actively trying to make the game better. Yeah, they just rolled out the control patch. There we go. So let's take a look and let's watch the SJR's coop and see
a game for
that
everyone
Crimson
is a game
Desert's
for no
devs
one.
said,
Good job,
fuck
Crimson
off.
Desert based.
Stop it. The evidence has not been fully collected yet. I'm just saying.
Hey, what's up guys, Ruff here. So in this video, I'm going to be talking about the current state of Crimson Desert a few days after its official release. Now, this game got off to a hot start, but it found some trouble thanks to very negative reviews provided by games journalists and a bunch of scrutiny provided by the usual suspects on social media. However, as the days have passed on since its official release, this game has actually attracted more and more concurrent player counts and more positive reviews because people are finding out the truth. This open world action adventure game that features no woke nonsense is actually very appealing to people once they give it a chance. However, on release, games journalists and activists on social media came out with a slew of incoherent complaints about this game, including complaints about a lack of diversity in the game. But here's the shocking part. It actually worked for a bit. At one point, this game was at a 50-50 reviewer rating on Steam. However, as the days have gone on and more people actually tried out this game instead of listening to journalists and activists, it's raised from about 50-50 to nearly 80%, a mostly positive set of reviews for this game.
Because of course IGN said, oh, this game's terrible. It doesn't have the diversity in it. So of course the game is terrible, along with the other SJR publications that actually should be shut down because they're not actually publications. They're literally just, DEI talking points to basically just bash on anything that's actually good. Yeah, like IGN, the meme of IGN is, okay, whatever IGN says, then chances are it's actually the exact opposite. Which the IGN has done absolutely fucking nothing to correct the meme. So there it is. And the biggest complaint I heard with Crimson Desert, honestly, the biggest complaint I had was about the controls. That was by far the biggest issue I heard in regards to this game, and they've already run a patch out to fix those.
To the dismay of woke journalists who are crashing out on social media now that this game has turned things around, including people like this saying the loser gamer chuds are celebrating this as an anti-woke victory, and it's making them very upset. So what's going on with Crimson Desert? Well, this was a much hyped up release. Again, this is an open world action adventure game, and of course it had a great level of success. Nearly 15 minutes out of the gate, it broke 100,000 concurrent players, which
that's impressive.
That's sort of a number for a game like this. That is a great start. However, almost immediately, this game was bombarded with negative reviews from reviewers such as IGN, who gave this a 6 out of 10 rating, basically saying,
wait a minute. When did this article come out? Does anybody know when this article came out? Because the first line is, I've played over 110 hours. So I question how long was it after the game launched that this article came out? That they played 110 hours. I had journalists early access? Maybe. But I mean, review copies only come out, what, like 2 days before launch? I thought, like, doesn't journal review copies only come out like maybe a day or two before launch, typically speaking? Like, that's still 110 hours. Holy. They had 2 weeks? Okay, they had 2 weeks to do it. Okay. All right.
It's very underwhelming and boring. Now, that's very rich coming from IGN, who once gave Dustborn and
There we
Concord
go.
7s individually, and even gave Dragon Age the Veilguard a 9. So any sort of...
Yeah, and they were butthurt because they played 110 hours and not a single DEI diversity scene in sight. They couldn't, they couldn't make a male character and go fuck another guy in the game. And so they hate, and so automatically dock points because there's no gay lovers in the game.
Rating coming from IGN, especially a 6, means absolutely nothing, but it did seem to have an impact on whether or not some people are willing to give this game a shot in the first place. Let's move on to some other reviews. This one coming from Jason Schreier, who has retired from Twitter, for facing valid criticism over the years.
Boy, it's such a shame that Jason Schreier fell so hard, because Jason Schreier was the guy that broke the story on Anthem. This is the guy. Like, at one point, I had a lot of respect for him as a journalist because he broke the story on BioWare and Anthem. Like, he wrote a fucking novel, an impressive one at that, like a journalistic novel about all of the shit that happened at BioWare that resulted in the crap fest that was Anthem. And it was very good, very in-depth journalism. Like, it was legit journalism that was making the round with content creators for like fucking weeks. And he's just fallen off so fucking hard since then. And now he's just gone full SJR on us.
And eventually moved on to the echo chamber known as Blue Sky. He left a review for Crimson Desert, calling it boring and soulless, and that he didn't want to play this at all anymore, and said this game feels like it was designed for people who just want to consume content.
I don't know if he bent the knee to SJR or was actually an SJR the whole time and just lucked out on, with what happened with Anthem, that was able to get in and actually summon, a broken clock strikes that, fuck, words are hard. A broken clock is right twice a day. So maybe it was just that was one of those broken clock moments for him, and all the rest of him is SJR. That's entirely possible.
Now, of course, nobody likes a consumer who will simply buy whatever slop comes their way because that's just what they feel like doing, and they just want to buy something no matter what the quality or what the messaging is for a particular product. But yeah, at the end of the day, people are consuming content. These are video games. It is content that you are consuming. So just calling it something that people wanted to consume as a form of content is not really a valid criticism unless you provide some sort of rationale as to why that is a bad thing in this case. But then again, just like with IGN, you think about who is sharing this message, and journalists like Jason Schreier are completely immune to predicting the success of a game. This is the same guy who looked at the initial launch of Dragon Age the Veilguard and saw 58,000 concurrent players on the first day of release and said, go woke, go top the charts. And of course, we know that Dragon Age the Veilguard completely...
Okay, you guys are kind of blocking his reply tweet because Mr. Khan said there's no way you genuinely like this turd. Jason Schreier's response, I actually don't like the game very much, but I do like seeing you chuds get dunked on. So this is the fallacy with the SJRs, is that they don't like, especially in the gaming, the gaming quote unquote journalist industry, They don't actually care about a game being good. They just want a game that pushes the message and is fully injected with diversity. And they just want it to dunk on the chuds. They don't actually care if it's a fun game. And therein lies why nobody gives a fuck what games journalists have to say anymore. That's why the games journalist industry is dying. Okay, make no mistake, the entire concept of the games journalist is dying off. Nobody gives a fuck what any of them has to say. Everybody gets their game reviews now from YouTubers. That is legit where everybody gets all of their game reviews from. Nobody's going to IGN, nobody's going to Metacritic, nobody's going to any of these like game journalist websites for a game review anymore. They are going to the YouTubers that actually play the game. They're going to the streamers that actually play the goddamn game on stream, and they are getting their critiques and their any criticisms or positive feedback on it from these YouTubers, because these YouTubers and these streamers have proven that they're going to give genuine, honest, for the most part, genuine and honest reviews coupled with actual game footage. It's not just written script on a website. You'll have these reviewers actually playing the game and making commentary about if they like, if they don't like, coupled with actual footage to back up their claims. So these game journalists, many of them are out of a job. Many of them have on like their Twitter profiles, "Hey, I'm looking for work. Contact me if you want me to do a review for your publication," because no one wants to hire them anymore. Because the concept of the games journalist is a dying business. Nobody fucking cares. And they're all going to the YouTubers and streamers.
Ripped
And they know it
apart and was a massive failure. And think about that 58K number, right? Like, Crimson Desert nearly doubled that in the first 15 minutes of its release. But when confronted with people asking whether or not they genuinely enjoy turds like Dragon Age the Veilguard, Jason Schreier, in his professional capacity as a games journalist, said, "I actually don't like the game very much, but I like seeing you chuds get dunked on." Yes, this is a 50-something-year-old man unironically calling detractors on the internet chuds. But we keep moving forward. There's some reviews on Metacritic.
Oh my God.
Complaining that Crimson Desert does not have enough LGBTQ plus representation. One review that provided a 0 out of 10 said this game is disappointing because it had no LGBTQ representation at all. It's disappointing.
Now, what do you want to bet? What do you want to bet? That this Metacritic reviewer didn't even play the game? How much do you want to bet this person, Majid Tebboune, however fucking pronounced, what do you want to bet they didn't even play the game? They either watched someone else play it or they looked at reviews and saw, oh, there's no LGBT in it, 0. And they literally did like a review bomb, and they never even played the game. Not even like a paid reviewer. This is probably like you could just make an account on Metacritic and give a review. So this is basically just someone who probably will do 0 for anything that doesn't have LGBT representation, or if it does, they'll give it a 10. And they don't actually play the games because what they're trying to do is they're trying to algo boost or tank the game in question based on whether or not it has the diversity in it and has the proper DEI in it in accordance with what they think it should have.
In 2026, this isn't about politics. It's about feeling invited to play and included in the world the game is trying to build. Amazing stuff. Yeah. Stunning and brave.
And you didn't pay for the game, so who cares?
These reviews and complaints are ridiculous, but it was working. Like I said, it prevented some people from even trying this game, and it even had an impact on the studio who designed it, Pearl Abyss. Pearl Abyss and their share price plummeted nearly 30% after the first reviews arrived for this game. This is a very big deal, okay? A 30% drop based largely on the negative reviews.
Thank you, Bole. And to your point, LGBT can work in a game. For example, Skyrim has it as beloved by many. Yes, it can. It absolutely having LGBT in a game can work. Never said it couldn't. I never said it couldn't. But we need to get to a point, and we are starting to get to a point, where it doesn't have to be forcibly injected into everything. Okay?
If they would play the game, they would be the LGBT representation.
No, but that's the overriding point. Is you want if your game makes sense to have LGBT characters or storylines in it, cool, that's fine. But the thing is, every fucking game does not have to have LGBT or diversity injected into literally everything now. There are people that don't give a shit about that. There's people that don't want that in every fucking game. And people are, when it's not forcibly injected into everything, people will actually cheer that. Because it means they're not caving to the woke virus, and that they're instead focusing on just making a game for people to have fun. And when like the indie game studios get this, that's the thing. The indie game studios have already got this. They already know that they don't need to have LGBT in literally every fucking game that comes out. And they're also recognizing that not putting LGBT into every fucking game that it comes out for the last umpteen years means that you're going to have gamers that will appreciate the fact that you're making a game for people to have fun playing and not to spread a message. Whereas the AAA studios that literally inject LGBT into every fucking product they put out these days are fucking dying. The games are dying and the companies are dying because they're constantly forcibly injecting the message into literally everything, which is not what their paying customers want. The indie studios know what their paying customers want, and so they're making their games for their paying customers, not for their fucking DEI loving shareholders. And that's why indie is on the rise and AAA is going off a cliff. It's literally as simple as that. And Bjorn, thank you for the tier 1.
And like I said, on Steam there for a moment, it was sitting at a 50-50. A lot of people were reading into what the journalists were saying and having a very negative outlook on this game or giving it a very small chance. To add on top of that, there were complaints about AI usage in this game. A Redditor discovered an AI-generated artwork in Crimson Desert. And you know how certain pockets of people on social media are when it comes to AI. They get very upset. Now, here comes the irony once again.
Okay.
Consider the source. One of the journalists reporting on this is IGN, who complained about the AI-generated art assets contained in Crimson Desert, while, of course, using Sprout Social, which is an AI tool. They literally made this article using AI tools in order to complain about AI-generated art assets. The irony is palpable.
Of course they did.
However, some people made a big fuss about this on social media, saying that they're refunding this game immediately, despite the fact that Crimson Desert came out and addressed this immediately and removed any sort of AI-generated art in the game. But then again, who's the source?
Okay, I'm going to tell you right now, this is performative. This is 100% performative. Absolutely. I don't take this seriously whatsoever. I question whether or not this individual even bought the game in the first place. Refunding this game immediately, totally unacceptable, absolutely unacceptable. I want proof she even bought in the first place. Because I don't believe that she bought in the first place, because this is all performance. Because as we're going to see on the next screen, she's probably a dev for a competing product. And so, of course, she's going to try and dumps her on Crimson Desert. to try and hype her own. But people that do shit like this, like, oh, there was like they used AI for, for their development, and then before release, they actually swapped out the AI art with hand-drawn art because they needed they basically used the AI art as placeholders. But people are like losing their shit so much about, oh, AI art. It's like I talked about this. People need to get the fuck over this thing that they've got going on with the AI art, especially if it's being used as a placeholder or as a tool, as a jump off point for your actual artists. But they don't want to because this is also virtue signaling. This is them trying to say, look, fellow SJRs, look at how righteous I am. I'm walking on the righteous path of the SJR and saying, oh, they used AI at some point during the development of this game. I am refunding this game immediately that I don't even have purchased, but I'm going to pretend like I did so you can all think that I'm doing the right thing here. And this is completely unacceptable. And it's all performative. This person is doing this for their Twitter followers. She's doing it for her Twitter followers, so her Twitter followers can go, slay queen, now I'm gonna absolutely follow whatever work that you're doing on. I'll be sure to buy it. Yeah, I'll be sure to buy whatever it is that you're working on, queen. You keep slaying.
AI-generated art in the game. But then again, who's the source? Look at the person making this complaint. A game dev for Intergalactic. Yes, this Intergalactic.
Oh, it's the new one. Oh my god, I didn't even put two and two together of the Intergalactic. Of course, a dev for that game is going to try and dumpster on Crimson Desert. Why? Because Intergalactic is already behind the 8 ball. People hated the trailer for Intergalactic from like a year ago. It got downvoted into oblivion. This is probably like another one that this might have been like a second trailer. It is literally getting downvoted into oblivion. Primarily because of the lead character. Because the lead character is like, well, the lead character is DEI. Yeah, Intergalactic is from when we watched the trailer like a year ago, it looks like it's going to be a like action adventure kind of game. But the lead character is very DEI. She is an Asian woman with a bald head and, basically the quote unquote modern audience attitude. Like, I'm a bad bitch. I'm gonna sit here like and get yelled at by my handler, and I'm just gonna sit here like sipping from a sippy straw of my drink and just like stare at them. Aren't I dad ass? Slurp, slurp. It's the gameplay we saw itself looks like, honestly, didn't look anything special. The gameplay itself looked like just about every other like action adventure type game. Like probably primarily like hand-to-hand or weapon combat, and basically think a less good version of Black Myth Wukong. That's what the gameplay reminded me of. A less good version of Black Myth Wukong. That's what Intergalactic looks like it's going to be like from the trailer. Yeah, and of course, this woman's butthurt because people are dumpstering all over her game. So, of course, she's going to go after the one that's successful. Shocking.
That has a brutal
like-to-dislike
like
ratio
for its official trailer on YouTube. And that is the person who is whining about this. Very interesting behavior coming from a game dev who is immediately pitting themselves against.
It was mostly cutscenes in the trailer, but they concluded the trailer by including in like a little bit of game, like perspective gameplay. So a little bit of perspective gameplay.
Crimson Desert. Meanwhile, they should be worrying about what's going on in their own backyard as opposed to what's going on at other studios. But of course, self-awareness is not really in the making of these sorts of game devs or anyone who'd be working on Intergalactic for that matter. But it's not just game devs and journalists complaining about it, social media users as well. We see this sort of sentiment from some users saying, is this game actually going to be good, or is this going to be another Wukong situation? another Wukong situation.
What?
The
What does that mean?
rewriting of history when it comes to Black Myth Wukong is very strange. I mean, look at
Yeah.
this game, right? This is a single-player game that released nearly 2 years ago, and it's still sitting at 4,200 in-game players with a 96% positive
Very
rating.
nice.
Okay, this was a triumph. Peaked at over 2 million concurrent players. This was
Yeah.
a
By every metric, this game seemed to have done amazing. It seemed to do absolutely amazing. Am I gonna play Crimson Desert? I don't know. I have to look at what the spec requirements are because depending on the spec requirements, if the graphical requirements of it are too high, it's not gonna work great with my stream setup because it will graphically speaking, if it's too demanding, it's gonna cause a big delay in my PC. And it kind of would make me not really be able to play it because of that, because it would delay my don't need a new PC. It's just it's the limits of the technology. That's all. It's just it's I the limits of the technology that I'm using. Even if I got a new computer with a bleeding edge graphic card, I might still encounter the same thing. It is what it is. I'll look into it and see see how demanding it is and see if it might be doable.
massive success, but now it's being considered a game that's overhyped.
I'm
like,
looking
this
at
is crazy.
I'm looking at getting the Steam
And you can
Cube.
see right here, on the same vein of these reviews being very misleading, Crimson Desert has around just shy of an 80
Is
Metascore from the critics, but compare that to Black Myth Wukong, that had an 81. And also Stellar Blade, that also had an 81. So, like, even the meta scores here are very, very hard to rely on, especially given their history with games like Black Myth Wukong. But of course, I think there was a big issue with the influence of journalists and people having a very short fuse and tolerance for this game. In fact, there was a large number of players quitting Crimson Desert and even getting refunds because the first puzzle in the game was too hard. Yes, people were giving up.
This
that
I hadn't
fast.
heard
And
about.
I think a lot of it is because of a super negative perception they were getting from journalists, game devs, and social media users who said this game is garbage.
Yeah, this one I hadn't heard about. That the first puzzle was too hard. Again, the biggest complaint that I had was if they really were quitting and refunding because of the first puzzle, that's absolute skill issue. That's like this is like the whiny little bitches that basically want a game that holds their hand the entire time. Absolutely, the yellow paint players, exactly. Like I said, the biggest issue I ever heard about this game was number one, the controls were ass, which they apparently have patched out. They patched out the controls. And number two, there was a big issue with the with Intel Arc graphics cards were not supported by this game. So if you had an Intel Arc GPU on your system, you couldn't even play it. But they're fixing that too. They've come to an agreement with Intel, and they're going to actually reconfigure it, or they're gonna run a patch on the game so it will now work with Intel Arc cards. So like they're taking the criticisms of their game and actually going, okay, we'll fix them, and fixing them. That's a base dev right there. That here's the criticisms from their consumers, from their player base. They go, okay, and they fix it immediately.
And when they saw the first obstacle in their way, they immediately quit because they already wanted to quit on it in many sorts of ways. We also had people like this trying to take an early victory lap the day or so after its release, tagging content creators like Smash JT, Vera Dark, and Top G8 here, saying, can you explain this discrepancy, referring to the reviews on SteamDB for Marathon versus Crimson Desert, saying, I thought Crimson Desert was going to be the game to own the libs or something, and somehow it's getting worse reviews than Marathon.
And yet it has more than double the player base. Explain it to me, Mr. Glorpinti. Marathon has less than half of the player base that Crimson Desert has. Make it make sense, please.
Well, that was a big mistake. Never spike the ball in the end zone too early here, because well, things would turn around quickly. As you can see, it went from a
Oopsie.
50-50 rating to well over 70 in just the last 24 hours or so, completely turning things around. In fact, it got close to 80% at one point. And look at the peak player count for the day. It's around
Word Dog, we looked at the comparison. Crimson Desert was sitting at about 150,000 players when we looked at beating a stream. Marathon was at like 32. And it peaked at like 54,000 for the last 24 hours. So Crimson Desert literally has, at minimum, 3 times the player base that Marathon has right now.
around 205,000 in-game players as of recording this video. And overall, it looks amazingly healthy. The peak concurrent count is actually increased the last couple of days, reaching the all-time peak several days after its release. It's actually improving over time because people are coming out and giving this game a chance in spite of everything games journalists and activists on social media are trying to say about this game. And part of the reason things are going better is because the developers have been on top of things. They have come out with a lot of changes, and of course the developers are Pearl Abyss, and they've been very quick coming out and addressing all of the complaints and making a lot of moves, and people are responding very well. It is no secret that right after this set of new changes through this patch, they reached their all-time concurrent player count. That is a very good sign. Now, also realize that user pointed out Marathon. Yeah, Marathon has an 85% review rating, but right now it's sitting at 34,000. I mean, only a tiny fraction of what Crimson Desert has right now. And just look at the all-time here. It has been dwindling consistently every single day, despite having some changes come out. It hasn't really impacted much. Like, Marathon, like I said, was never going to be a gigantic flop. It wasn't going to be a Concord, but like these numbers seem pretty disappointing for a game that had a budget in the hundreds of millions. But
yeah, they're not making their money back. We looked at the comparison when I looked at that breakdown. Bungie and Sony are losing money hand over fist. They like Sony especially, like Sony put in a considerable amount of money into Bungie to make Marathon, and they are hemorrhaging money. They've already lost a shit ton on the launch. Like at launch, they took a massive loss in the tune of like $150 million loss. And now they're losing money by having to maintain the servers because it's a live service game. So now they're losing even more money on the servers because they don't have a big enough player base to substantiate or to make up the shortfall for all the costs in the servers. Their shop is making absolutely nothing. The Marathon shop is making no money. Nobody's buying anything out of the shop. So they're just every day, Bungie and Sony are losing money literally every day that Marathon stays active.
Point now people are using. You can see some journalists like Paul Tassi, I mean, another positive impact by Paul Tassi here, saying, when I see Crimson Desert increase from 58% to 78% positive Steam reviews in 72 hours. He is on the right side of history as a journalist for another release in a row. Good on him, but not every person in the games journalism scene was happy about things turning around for Crimson Desert. You see Andy Cortez here, absolutely losing his mind, saying, truly had no idea the loser gamer chuds were claiming Crimson Desert's success as an anti-woke victory, LMAO. They just make up the weirdest nonsensical stuff.
Hey everybody, look at the clown that's just like reeing and screaming. Look at the the wounded animal that's just lashing out at anything it can sink its claws into. Everybody point and laugh.
So yeah, this guy's jimmies are totally not rustled here. He's talking about loser gamer chuds, aka anyone who disagrees with him on anything. And he is saying that people are claiming this as an anti-woke victory. I don't really know about that. I don't really see many people doing that.
Queechable. Do you want to take that back now? Hey, you want to take that back now, boy? I got no problem with setting you up for the berry now, boy. Don't you, my son, you do not want to be fucking with that, because I will happily set you up with the bear bait. My son. Ooh. All right. Boy, you got me on poison with it. You got no much stuff to play for this on, boy. That's all on you, boy. You go back in the garage there. You go get on back in the garage there. You go clean that up there.
I just think people are saying the game is getting more positive coverage and positive reviews the second people stopped listening to games journalists and actually tried out the game for themselves. I think there is definitely a lesson here. And just look at this guy. Like, what is this guy even doing? I mean, this guy's so audience captured by his own agenda. He has to...
Hang on. I have to make a correction on this. I forgot to bring the soundboard up. Queejabo for you. That's for you there, bye.
I mean, this guy's so audience captured by his own agenda. He has to include this in his handle, saying that he didn't pay for the blue check mark. He has to make sure to all the people that follow him that he is not supporting Elon Musk with this blue check mark.
He
didn't pay for it. He has to make this clear because otherwise he's going to get eaten alive by the progressives he is trying to appeal to so desperately.
Say the line, Andy.
The totally normal person over here who recently directly tagged Asmongold and said that when his father passed away, it made things worse for him because the guy had no one left to disappoint, and then called him a ugly, racist cretin. Yes, totally progressive.
And now we have the jealousy that if Asmongold said something about Crimson Desert, way more people are going to listen to Asmongold than Andy Cortez. So Andy Cortez is butthurt because nobody gives a flying fuck what he has to say. And so, of course, like Asmongold, if he says, hey, Crimson Desert was great, I had a lot of fun playing it, you'd instantly have about 20,000 copies sold right there and then. If Asmongold said, hey, this was a fun game. He's playing on stream right now. I'm not surprised. Yeah, he says it's fun. 20,000 people will go out and buy it right now. Andy Cortez says, oh, the game sucks because there's no LGBT representation. I think it's boring. People are going to go, who the fuck are you and why should I give a fuck what you have to say about anything? He's jealous. Again, you have another person who is in the journalism industry who is jealous as fuck about content creators because people listen to content creators long before they'll ever listen to a journalist.
And empathetic as usual with these
individuals. I'm guessing he was mixed on it because of the controls.
But there were some more responses from Mighty Keef here, one of the shills in the industry, saying, I was shocked to not see the usual grifters posting 50 times a day about Crimson Desert's negative receptions at launch until I found out they, for whatever reason, tried to adopt it into their culture war. Their hypocrisy has no end.
Oh, of course.
Had this been a game they thought clashed with their ideals in any way, you would see headlines like Crimson Desert a failure, everyone hates Crimson Desert, and other hyperbolic rhetoric. I think the lady doth protest too much. I think Mighty Keef here is projecting because if this game was presented, as they're trying to claim, as some anti-woke triumph, these people would be dancing in the streets if it was failing, okay? But because this game turned things around, in spite of what journalists were trying to do to it for days, all of a sudden now they're seething and coping about it, trying to say that people would have not talked about its failure.
You know why I think that is? You know why they're seething and coping so hard? It's because initially I think that these games journalists thought that they scored a victory. That because Crimson Desert didn't have their diversity in it that they demand be in every game nowadays, and because they dumpstered on it, they actually saw some fruits of their labor, where stock price of the the sales were, the gamer count maybe was going down, or the sales were not as what they thought it was, and all kinds of people were performatively posting, I'm returning my gain, oh, I hate this, and people were being performative about it. and they saw that the stock price of the dev went down by 30%. So they were getting ready to take their victory lap. Like, yeah, we stuck it to the chuds. No, we caused this game to fail. We have our power once again. And then everything fucking changed. Yeah, they thought they won, and then gamers went, I don't fucking think so. And then the gamers came out of nowhere, slapped these bitches back into their cubicles and said, sit the fuck down, little boy. The real adults are playing a game right now. And then it bounced up, and now they're coping and seething because they could feel the power that their brand of journalism once had to decide if a game was good or not, where they could shape the public opinion of whether or not a game should be good or not. They thought they were reclaiming it, and then it got ripped out of their grubby, putrid hands, and they're pissed about it. They're pissed that gamers took it away from them again. And that's why they're coping and seething so fucking hard.
Because it's some sort of agenda push here? I don't really understand. I think this game is just a regular game. I don't think there's really an agenda here at all. I think it just came out and gave people an enjoyable experience
and they
without
hate
any
that.
Woke nonsense.
They hate that
That's
there's
kind
no
of like
agenda.
what the standard is supposed to be, and now it's succeeding because people are enjoying the content and ignoring what a bunch of whiny crybabies like Andy Cortez have to say about
exactly.
it. Like,
It's
nobody
a game. It was a
actually
game
cares
made
what this
for the
guy
love of the
has
game.
to say. And now that his little victory he thought he had, and journalists thought they had with the tough starts.
No, not just cool. Not just cool. Well, you did say beautiful. Yeah, it's a Korean game, which means they are. God bless them. They make beautiful people. They make their characters all look beautiful. The men look handsome and manly. The women look busty and sexy. And God bless them for it.
Or at least the not perfect start for Crimson Desert. It's been evaporated. Now they're whining about the loser gamer chuds and making this all about the culture war stuff, which of course now people like this are accusing their ideological opponents of doing while doing it themselves. And overall, yeah, people stop listening. The user scores on Metacritic have now surpassed the Metascore. And this is shooting up every single day. Because again, people are actually trying it out for themselves and giving this game the chance that, well, journalists didn't want them to give. Okay?
Yeah.
But anyways, that's going to do it for this video. As always, feel free to share your thoughts about today's topics in the comment section down below. Hope you guys enjoyed the video, and I'll see you next time.
Nice. All right, let me link to you guys this. Give me a sec. Like, I might try this game. Maybe I'll look at playing this game tomorrow. Let me take a look, see here. Cheap. Surprising. Okay. What are we looking at here? What's the system requirements? Okay. Okay, you know what? The system requirements don't look outrageous. It's kind of high on the storage capacity, but I'll deal with that. Yeah, I mean, recommended as a Ryzen 5, 5th gen. Or Ryzen 5 5600 series, 16 gigs of RAM. I got double that. Recommended GPU is only a 2080. So, graphically speaking, it doesn't seem like it's that. Okay. You know what? Maybe I'll look at getting this tomorrow. Maybe I'll look at getting this and playing it tomorrow. What do you think?